Have you ever stopped and asked yourself why nothing in your life seems to change, no matter how hard you try? The answer is simple but brutal. Because you're running from the truth. You know, the things you've been avoiding, the tough conversations, the decisions you're scared to make, the patterns you pretend don't exist, and they're quietly controlling everything in your life. Avoiding them might feel safe for a while, but deep down, you know it's holding you back. This video will show you exactly how to face the truths you've been running from and take control of your life. You will learn how to spot the patterns that keep repeating, how to deal with fears that stop you, and how to start making real changes today. This isn't about quick fixes or empty motivation. It's about understanding yourself, taking responsibility, and building the kind of mindset that actually creates results. By the time this video ends, you'll see how facing reality head-on can free you, make you stronger, and finally push your life forward. Change doesn't start somewhere else. It starts the moment you stop running. Chapter 1. Admit what you keep avoiding and start rebuilding your life. You know, there comes a moment in every life when the truth stops whispering and starts pressing on your chest. You feel it when you wake up in the morning and something inside you feels heavy. You feel it when you're alone at night and your mind starts replaying the same thoughts over and over. You feel it when you know you should be further ahead, but something keeps holding you in the same place. And that something is not the world. It is not your past. It is not another person. It is the truth you have been avoiding for far too long. Every time you turn away from that truth, you trade growth for comfort. And comfort feels good for a moment, but it slowly steals your confidence, your power, and your future. You know this already because you've lived it. You've had moments where you said you would change something, but inside you felt the weight of the same issue you never dealt with. And if you really want your life to move in a better direction, you have to start with honesty. Not the soft kind, not the kind that excuses your behavior. I'm talking about real honesty, the kind that looks you in the eye and says, "It's time to stop running." You see, nothing changes until you admit what you keep avoiding. And I know that is not easy. Admitting the truth about yourself takes courage. It takes emotional strength. It takes the willingness to feel uncomfortable for a while. Most people never reach this point because facing the truth feels like standing in front of a mirror and seeing everything you don't want to see. But that mirror is the beginning of progress. When you refuse to look, you stay stuck. When you finally face it, your life can start moving again. There are people who blame their past for where they are. There are people who blame their mistakes. There are people who blame others. But at the end of the day, growth begins only when you say, "I played my part in this. I made choices that got me here, and now I am ready to make choices that take me out." That is honesty. That is the kind of honesty that rebuilds a life. When you carry unspoken truths inside you, it shows up in how you act. It shows up in your attitude. It shows up in your motivation. You may not say it out loud, but you feel it. You feel frustrated for no clear reason. You feel unmotivated even when you know what to do. You feel distracted even when the task is simple. And the worst part is the quiet guilt you carry, because you know you've been running from something important. You know you've been pretending that everything is fine, but pretending never leads to growth. Pretending keeps you tired. Pretending keeps you confused. Pretending keeps you from stepping into the person you want to become. Admitting the truth is not about beating yourself up. It is about freeing yourself. When you finally accept what you have avoided, you gain clarity. And clarity gives you strength. You start seeing where your energy has been going. You start seeing what you really want. You start seeing how much time you've lost, and how much life you still have ahead of you, and that moment of clarity can feel emotional, because for the first time in a long time, you feel honest with yourself. You might have been avoiding the truth about your habit. Maybe you know you waste too much time. Maybe you know you talk more about change than you act on it. Maybe you know you repeat the same mistakes in relationships. Maybe you know you stay in the same place because you fear failure. Maybe you know you fear success. Whatever it is, honesty is the doorway to a better life. When you say it out loud, when you acknowledge it without excuses, you create the power to rebuild. I've seen people transform their lives not because they learned something new, but because they finally admitted something old. They finally said, "I've been hurting myself with this behavior." They said, "I've been hiding from this problem." They said, "I've been afraid to start over." And once they admitted it, their whole attitude shifted. They walked differently. They talked differently. They showed up for themselves in ways they never had before. You can rebuild your life at any age, at any moment, and in any situation. The starting point is always the same. Honesty. Not with the world, with yourself. You don't need to tell anyone else. You don't need approval. You don't need applause. This is between you and your own future. It takes one moment of honesty to open the door to real change. One moment where you tell yourself the truth that you've avoided because it felt too heavy or too painful. But carrying it every day is far more painful than facing it once. When you admit what you've been avoiding, your mind starts to work for you instead of against you. Your thoughts become clearer, your decisions become stronger, you stop delaying, you stop doubting, you stop repeating the past, and you begin rebuilding, step by step, day by day, one honest decision at a time. Rebuilding your life does not require perfection, it requires direction. It requires the willingness to rise even when you feel weak. It requires the choice to improve even when you feel unsure. When you rebuild your life from a place of honesty, you build it on a solid foundation. You build it with awareness. You build it with intention. You build it with emotional strength, because you are no longer hiding from yourself. Some people wait for a perfect moment to start over, but life doesn't give perfect moments. Life gives chances. Life gives wake-up calls. And the truth you keep running from is one of those wake-up calls. When you face it, you stop living in fear and start living in control. You stop repeating yesterday and start shaping tomorrow. You stop holding yourself back and start becoming the person you always knew you could be. You have more strength inside you than you think. You have more potential than you've shown. You have more opportunities ahead of you than behind you. But to unlock all of that, you must be honest about what is holding you in the same place. The truth may hurt for a moment, but it will free you for a lifetime. And the longer you avoid it, the longer you delay the life you truly want. Right now, you have a chance to take back your power, not by running, not by hiding, but by admitting what you keep avoiding. That is where rebuilding begins. That is where healing begins. That is where success begins. And that is where your new life starts. Your future will not be built on excuses. It will be built on decision. It will be built on honesty. It will be built on the courage to say, "I am ready to stop running and start rising." And when you make that choice, everything in your life begins to shift. Your confidence grows. Your mindset strengthens, your actions align with your goals, and you start to see progress you never thought possible. The truth you keep running from is not your enemy. It is your guide. It is the part of you that wants you to grow. And when you finally face it, you will feel a sense of relief, a sense of control, and a sense of hope that you may not have felt in a long time. That feeling is the beginning of a new chapter in your life. You can rebuild your life starting today. You can rebuild your habit. You can rebuild your mindset. You can rebuild your confidence. You can rebuild your direction. But it will only begin when you admit what you keep avoiding. When honesty becomes your starting point, growth becomes your lifestyle. This is your moment to rise. This is your moment to take your life back. This is your moment to stop running and start rebuilding. Every great change starts with one honest step, and now it is your turn to take it. Chapter 2. Face the truth you hide and give yourself real direction. You know, there comes a time when avoiding the truth becomes more exhausting than facing it. You carry it inside you like a tight knot in your chest. You feel it when you wake up and something feels out of place. You feel it when you try to convince yourself that everything is fine, even though you know something needs to change. And somewhere deep inside, you already know the truth you keep hiding is the very truth that could give you direction if you finally faced it. Life has a way of pointing you toward the places you've been ignoring, and whether you act or not, the pressure keeps building until you can't avoid it anymore. Facing the truth is not about blaming yourself. It is about giving yourself the clarity you've been missing. When you hide from something within you, it affects more than your thoughts. It affects your choices. It affects your mood. It affects how you show up in your daily life. You may try to distract yourself, keep busy, or push it aside, but the truth always finds a way to come back. It shows up in your hesitation. It shows up in your lack of direction. It shows up in that quiet feeling that you could be doing better but you're not sure why you haven't started. That is what hiding the truth does. It keeps your mind and your life in a state of confusion. Most people don't face the truth because they fear what they might see. Maybe they fear the changes they will have to make. Maybe they are afraid of letting go of habits they have depended on for years. Maybe they feel guilty about choices they made. Maybe they don't want to admit they have been stuck for too long. And sometimes it's not fear, it's pride. Pride convinces you that you already know what you need, that you don't have to look deeper, that you're fine. But the truth is never your enemy. The truth is the signal that guides you back to yourself. The moment you face it is the moment your life can move forward. Without truth, direction becomes impossible. You can set goals, make plans, and dream big, but if you're not honest about where you stand, everything becomes guesswork. You move without clarity. You start things without finishing. You change your mind often because you are unsure what you really want, and that uncertainty drains your energy day after day. When you face what you've been hiding, you stop wasting time. You stop wandering around your own life. You stop making choices based on fear. You start making choices based on awareness. And awareness is the beginning of direction. There are hidden truths that many people carry. Truths about their habits, their relationships, their attitude, their discipline, their lack of confidence, their lack of effort, their fear of failure, or their fear of success. These truths stay buried inside because acknowledging them feels uncomfortable. But the discomfort of honesty is nothing compared to the frustration of living without direction. When you face the truth you hide, you give yourself the chance to understand what has been stopping you. You give yourself the opportunity to rebuild your way forward with a clear mind. Think about how many moments in life you felt confused, lost, or unsure of what to do next. Those moments weren't because you lacked potential. They weren't because you lacked opportunity. They happened because you lacked clarity. And clarity comes from being honest about what is happening inside you. When you face the truth, you understand your strengths better. You understand your weaknesses better. You understand your real need. You understand what you should stop doing and what you should start doing. This understanding gives you direction that feels real, personal, and grounded. You can't build a strong life while hiding from yourself. You can't build confidence while denying what needs attention. You can't build discipline while pretending nothing is wrong. Real direction comes from honest self-awareness. It comes from saying, this is where I am, and this is what I need to work on. That simple act of honesty opens a door inside you. It gives you a starting point, and every powerful change begins with a starting point. Some people think direction comes from outside. They wait for someone else to guide them. They wait for motivation. They wait for inspiration. They wait for the right moment. But direction starts from within. It starts the moment you uncover the truth you've been hiding. It may be a truth about your behavior. It may be a truth about your effort. It may be a truth about your relationship with yourself. Whatever it is, once you face it, your path begins to form right in front of you. When you face the truth, you remove the fog from your mind. You stop feeling stuck. You stop guessing. You stop wasting energy on excuses. You start seeing exactly what needs to change. You become more intentional. You become more focused. You become more disciplined. The simple act of facing the truth turns your energy towards solutions instead of distractions. It gives you the inner strength to take steps you were avoiding before. The truth might tell you that you need to take better care of your health. It might tell you that you need to stop settling for less. It might tell you that you need to improve your habits. It might tell you that you need to cut out certain behaviors that keep hurting you. It might tell you that you've been holding on to something that no longer serves you. The truth might tell you that you are capable of more than you've allowed yourself to believe. And when you finally listen, you gain direction that feels honest and meaningful. There is nothing more powerful than a person who finally stops hiding from themselves. When you face your truth, something inside you becomes stronger. You feel more grounded. You feel more responsible. You feel ready to take ownership of your life. And with that ownership comes direction. You no longer wait for life to push you. You start guiding yourself. You start making decisions based on what matters to you. You start building goals that align with who you truly are. This kind of direction is steady. It is durable. It keeps you on track even when life becomes difficult. People often look for shortcuts to clarity, but nothing replaces honesty. You can read books, listen to talks, and receive advice, but if you won't face the truth inside you, the direction you're looking for will always feel incomplete. Once you stop hiding, you give yourself the chance to build a life with purpose. You stop drifting. You stop repeating the same cycle. You stop carrying the weight of unspoken feelings. And you begin moving toward a future that reflects your real potential. Facing the truth is not something you do once. It is something you practice. You check in with yourself. You notice when you're slipping. You acknowledge when you're avoiding something. You stay aware of your behavior. This continuous honesty keeps your direction clear. It keeps you moving. It keeps you progressing. It keeps you from falling back into old patterns. When you accept the truth, you don't feel weak. You feel relieved. You feel lighter. You feel more connected to your goals. You feel more in control of your decisions. And that control gives you a sense of direction that feels natural. You wake up with a purpose. You know what you are working toward. You stop wasting time. You stop doubting yourself. You start taking action. Facing the truth also deepens your relationship with yourself. You begin trusting your own decisions. You begin relying on your own judgment. You begin respecting your own effort. And that self-respect builds momentum. You start showing up with more confidence. You start speaking with more clarity. You start acting with more intention. This is what real direction feels like. It is not forced. It is not complicated. It is the result of being honest with yourself. Right now you have the chance to stop hiding from the truth that has been sitting inside you for years. You have the chance to give yourself a direction that feels true to who you are. You have the chance to create a life that reflects your values, your goals, and your potential. But it all begins with honesty. Not the kind you speak to others, the kind you speak to yourself, the kind that frees you, the kind that guides you, the kind that gives you real direction. You deserve a life that feels clear and meaningful. You deserve a mind that feels light instead of confused. You deserve progress that feels steady and real. And all of that begins the moment you face the truth you hide.
and give yourself the direction. This is your moment to step into clarity. This is your moment to reclaim control. This is your moment to face what you have avoided, and finally move forward with strength and purpose.
Chapter 3. Accept your real situation and choose a better path today. You know, there is a point in every person's life when pretending no longer works. You can try to deny what is in front of you. You can try to tell yourself that things will change on their own. You can try to convince yourself that the situation is not as serious as it feels. But inside, you already know that nothing improves until you accept where you truly stand. And accepting your real situation is not a sign of defeat. It is the first real step toward building a life you can be proud of. Most people avoid this step because it feels uncomfortable. Facing the truth about your situation forces you to see the results of your choices, your habits, and your decisions. It forces you to see the consequences you've been trying to ignore. But there is something powerful about acceptance. The moment you accept your real situation, you stop arguing with reality. You stop resisting the facts. You stop wasting energy on excuses, and that frees up your mind to make better decisions. When you look honestly at where you are right now, you give yourself something solid to work with. You stop thinking about how you wish things were and start dealing with how they actually are. This is where real strength begins. You cannot build a better life from imagination. You build it from the truth, and the truth gives you direction, no matter how difficult it may feel at first. Some people live in denial for years. They don't want to admit they are stuck. They don't want to admit they have drifted away from their goals. They don't want to admit their habits have become unhealthy. They don't want to admit they repeat the same mistakes in relationships. They don't want to admit that they waste too much time. They don't want to admit they have let fear guide their decisions. But denying these things does not save you from them. It keeps you trapped inside them. Accepting your real situation means looking at your life without filters. It means being honest about how you feel when you wake up. It means noticing the areas where you've been avoiding responsibility. It means recognizing the habits that no longer serve you. It means seeing the gap between the life you live and the life you want. This kind of acceptance may feel heavy for a moment, but it brings clarity that can change your entire path. There is something incredibly empowering about saying, "This is where I am right now, and I am ready to start fresh." That simple sentence shifts your energy from helplessness to action. It shifts your focus from regret to possibility. It shifts your mindset from fear to determination. And that shift is the beginning of a better path. Your situation might not be what you hoped for. It might feel disappointing. It might feel confusing. It might feel frustrating. But acceptance does not mean you approve of it. Acceptance means you acknowledge it so you can change it. You can't fix what you will not face. And you can't improve what you refuse to see clearly. When you accept your real situation, you stop judging yourself and start understanding yourself. Understanding brings awareness. Awareness brings solutions. Solutions bring progress. Progress brings confidence. And confidence builds a new future. All of it starts with acceptance. Choosing a better path today requires you to be fully present. Not stuck in the past. Not overthinking the future. Today is the only place where action is possible. And when you accept your situation, you begin to see what steps you can take right now. Some steps may be small. Some may be uncomfortable. Some may require you to change your routine. Some may require you to let go of old habits. But every step you take builds your momentum. A better path does not require a perfect plan. It requires a decision. A decision to stop staying in the same place. A decision to stop repeating old patterns. A decision to take responsibility for your life. A decision to move forward even if you feel unsure. A decision to start now, instead of waiting for another day that never comes. Many people wait for a big moment to change. They wait for motivation. They wait for a sign. They wait for someone else to push them. They wait for the perfect conditions. But waiting keeps you tied to the same situation. Acceptance frees you from waiting. When you accept your real situation, you realize the perfect moment never comes. Today is your chance. Today is your starting point. Today is the doorway to a better path. The truth is, you already know what needs to change. You've known it for a long time. You've felt it in your conversations. You've felt it in your choices. You've felt it when you compare your actions with your goal. Today is the day to stop ignoring that inner awareness. Today is the day to trust yourself enough to act on it. When you accept what is happening inside and around you, you gain the power to change it. Choosing a better path does not mean throwing your life away. It means guiding your life in a healthier direction. It means choosing what helps you grow instead of what keeps you stuck. It means replacing old habits with better ones. It means walking away from what drains you and walking toward what strengthens you. It means setting boundaries. It means being clear about what you want. It means acting with purpose rather than reacting out of emotion. Every improvement you want begins with one moment of acceptance. When you stop fighting reality, you can finally work with it. You can adjust your habits. You can reorganize your priority. You can take daily steps that lead to progress. You can create routines that support your goals. You can change the way you think about yourself. You can build a future that feels meaningful. Once you accept your real situation, you stop carrying the emotional weight of denial. You no longer feel the stress that comes from pretending. You no longer feel the confusion that comes from avoiding your problems. You no longer feel the pressure of hiding from yourself. Acceptance brings a sense of calm, because it removes the inner conflict, and that calm gives you the mental clarity to take better actions. You deserve a life that reflects your potential, not your fears. You deserve a life built on purpose, not on avoidance. You deserve a life that moves forward, not a life that stays stuck in the same cycle. And choosing a better path today is the greatest gift you can give yourself. When you choose a better path, you begin to trust yourself again. You feel proud of your decisions. You build momentum. You gain confidence. You take control, and slowly, your life starts to change. You start waking up with a sense of direction. You start seeing progress you once thought was out of reach. You start becoming someone you respect. Accepting your real situation is not about focusing on weakness. It is about focusing on possibility. It is about seeing where you are, so you can decide where to go. It is about taking ownership of your life. It is about choosing growth over comfort. It is about stepping into the version of yourself that has been waiting for you. This is your chance to stop repeating what hasn't worked. This is your chance to break the cycle of avoidance. This is your chance to create a better path. Not tomorrow. Not someday. Today. Because today is the only day you can take action. Today is the only day you can change direction. Today is the only day you can choose a life that feels true to you. You have more strength than you've shown. You have more potential than you've used. You have more control than you realize. But to unlock any of it, you must accept your real situation and choose a better path today. This is your starting point. This is your moment. And this is the beginning of a new chapter you deserve to experience. Chapter 4. See your behavior clearly and change how you show up. You'll notice something interesting when you finally start paying attention to your own behavior. Most of the things you do every day run on autopilot. You don't think about your tone when you speak, the way you react when someone disagrees with you, the small habits you repeat without even noticing, or the emotional patterns you slide into because they feel familiar. But these tiny automatic behaviors shape the way the world responds to you. They create the image people silently build of you. They decide how opportunities approach you or avoid you. And the hardest part is that you can't change anything you don't see clearly. When you don't understand how you show up, you start believing life is unfair, when in reality your own behavior might be building the wall you keep crashing into. Seeing yourself clearly is uncomfortable because it forces you to admit that some of your struggles didn't come from bad luck, but from the way you've been moving in your own life. Maybe you've been showing up with impatience and didn't even realize how many bridges it burned. Maybe you've been responding with a defensive tone that pushes people away even when you don't mean to. Maybe your silence during difficult moments makes others think you don't care, even though you're fighting your fears internally. Or maybe the behaviors you're ashamed of, the ones you try to hide, are actually the ones people notice the fastest. The truth is, your behavior is like a mirror you carry everywhere. Even if you don't look at it, others do. It's easy to tell yourself that you didn't mean it, that people misunderstood you, or that things just came out wrong. But these explanations only comfort you. They don't change anything. At some point you have to step outside of yourself and see how your patterns look from the outside. You have to ask yourself why you react before thinking, why you raise your voice without realizing, why you shut down when emotions rise, or why you pretend to be okay when your whole inner world is overwhelmed. Real growth begins the moment you stop trying to justify your behavior and start trying to understand it. Sometimes your behavior is shaped by old wounds you've never healed. Maybe you learned to stay quiet because speaking up once led to humiliation. Maybe you shut people out because letting someone close once led to betrayal. Maybe you avoid responsibility because it feels safer than facing the possibility of failure. These behaviors didn't come from nowhere. They were survival tactics at one point. But when survival becomes your lifestyle even long after the danger has passed, you end up harming your present with tools meant for your past. And you don't even notice you're doing it. That's why seeing your behavior clearly isn't about blaming yourself. It's about understanding the story behind your habits, so you can choose to write a different chapter. There comes a day when you realize the version of you that other people experience is not the same version you imagine in your mind. In your mind you might believe you're calm, but others may see frustration in your body language. You may think you're being honest, but others may hear harshness. You may think you're protecting yourself, but others may feel distance. You may think you're being humble, but others may see hesitation. Understanding this gap is one of the most life-changing awakenings a person can have. You cannot grow into your best self while staying blind to the version of you that the world interacts with. This clarity often arrives in moments you don't expect. A friend finally tells you the truth you didn't want to hear. A partner says they feel unheard. A colleague reacts to your words in a way you didn't anticipate. Or you suddenly notice you've been losing people who once cared about you. These moments feel uncomfortable, maybe even painful, but they're invitations to change how you show up. They're reminders that you can't keep repeating the same behavior and expect life to reward you differently. People often think transformation begins with big, dramatic decisions, but real change usually starts with noticing one small behavior you've been ignoring. Maybe you catch yourself interrupting others. Maybe you realize you apologize too quickly because you fear conflict. Maybe you see that you bring your stress into every conversation without intending to. Maybe you recognize the familiar pattern of shutting down whenever something feels too real. When you start noticing these things, you finally gain the power to shift them. Changing how you show up doesn't mean becoming a different person. It means becoming a more honest version of yourself. It means replacing reactive behavior with intentional behavior. It means breaking away from habits that served your old life but don't belong in your next chapter. It means showing up in a way that reflects the person you actually want to be, not the person your fears try to shape you into. If you want to change your behavior, start by slowing down. Slow down your reactions. Slow down your thoughts. Slow down your assumptions. A paused moment can save you from saying something you'll regret. A breath can prevent you from repeating an old pattern. A second of awareness can completely change the energy of a situation. You don't have to be perfect. You just need to be conscious enough to redirect yourself when you fall back into the behaviors you're trying to outgrow.
You also have to learn how to observe yourself without attacking yourself. Self-awareness becomes destructive when you turn it into self-blame. Instead of asking, "What's wrong with me?" ask, "Why do I respond this way?" A behavior always has a root. Maybe it came from fear, maybe from exhaustion, maybe from insecurity. If you address the root, the behavior naturally changes. If you only attack the symptom, you'll repeat the same cycles with more guilt attached to them. Sometimes you think your problem is lack of confidence, but the real problem is the way you carry yourself in the world. Sometimes you think people don't understand you, but the real issue is how you communicate. Sometimes you think life keeps giving you the same lessons because you're unlucky, but in reality your behavior keeps attracting the same situation. When you change how you show up, the world around you changes too, not magically, but logically. New behavior brings new results. Emotional awareness creates emotional stability. Self-respect teaches others how to treat you. Clear communication prevents unnecessary pain. Intentional actions build trust, not only with others, but with yourself. Changing your behavior also means challenging your default settings. If your default is shutting down, practice expressing yourself bit by bit. If your default is reacting emotionally, practice grounding yourself before responding. If your default is trying to please everyone, practice saying no even when your voice shakes. If your default is avoiding discomfort, practice taking one small step into the things you feel. At first, these new behaviors will feel unnatural because your brain is used to the old patterns. But with consistency, what once felt strange becomes your new normal. You'll notice that when you shift your behavior, people start relating to you differently. Some will appreciate your growth and adjust with you. Some will feel uncomfortable because they were benefiting from your old patterns. Some will pull away because your growth exposes their stagnation, and that's okay. You're not changing for approval. You're changing for alignment. You're choosing to show up as someone who takes responsibility for their energy, their words, and their actions. That alone separates you from the version of you that felt powerless. Over time, you will realize that seeing your behavior clearly is one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself, because once you understand how you show up, you can shape it. You can soften where you were once rigid. You can become firm where you were once passive. You can replace emotional impulsiveness with emotional maturity. You can replace self-doubt with grounded confidence. You can replace defensiveness with curiosity. You can replace avoidance with courage. And little by little, you'll start seeing yourself respect yourself more. You'll feel proud of the way you handle situations that once triggered you. You'll notice that people respond to you with more trust, more openness, and more respect. You'll notice that life feels less chaotic because you're no longer fighting battles created by your own behavior. You'll notice that your relationships feel more honest because you're showing up with clarity instead of confusion. At the end of the day, seeing yourself clearly is not about perfection, it's about awareness, and awareness gives you power. Power to change, power to grow, power to break old patterns, power to choose who you become. When you change how you show up, you change the story of your life one conscious moment at a time.
Chapter 5. Look at the pain you carry and decide to grow. There is a weight that most people carry silently through life. It hides in moments when no one is watching, in quiet spaces between conversations, in the late nights when thoughts run wild, and in mornings when getting out of bed feels like pushing against an invisible force. This weight is pain, and it comes in many forms. It comes from disappointment, from loss, from mistakes, from unmet expectations, from relationships that failed, from dreams deferred, and from moments when life didn't turn out the way you thought it would. Everyone has it, and everyone knows it exists. The problem is not the pain itself. The problem is how often we run from it instead of facing it and letting it guide us toward growth. Pain is uncomfortable, and your mind naturally wants to avoid discomfort. You want to distract yourself with work, with screens, with food, with busyness, with noise, anything to avoid feeling what's inside. That avoidance may bring temporary relief, but it doesn't heal anything. The weight remains, and over time it affects your actions, your decisions, your relationships, and your sense of self. Ignoring pain doesn't make it disappear, it simply buries it deeper, until it begins to shape the life you live without you even realizing it. The first step in real growth is looking at the pain you carry. You have to stop pretending it isn't there. You have to stop blaming circumstances, other people, or fate for the discomfort you feel. This is not about assigning blame, it's about acknowledgement. It's about recognizing that this pain exists, that it has affected you, and that it has meaning. Every difficult moment, every failure, every heartbreak, every disappointment has left a mark. You may try to convince yourself it doesn't matter, but your behaviors, your emotions, and your habits reveal the truth. To grow, you have to see it clearly. Looking at your pain requires honesty with yourself. It demands courage to sit in the reality of your feelings. You must name the emotions you have been avoiding: anger, sadness, fear, regret, shame, guilt, loneliness. When you give these emotions names, they lose some of their power to control you. They stop lurking in the shadows and start becoming part of your understanding. When you acknowledge the source of your pain, you can start to see its impact on your choices. You notice how it has shaped the way you respond to challenges, how it has guided your relationships, how it has influenced your self-talk, and how it has created barriers where none needed to exist. Accepting your pain is not weakness. It is strength. It is not surrender. It is preparation for action. The moment you face the discomfort, you take the first step toward freedom. Most people avoid this step because it is uncomfortable. Most people spend years distracting themselves, blaming others, or pretending everything is fine. But the discomfort of facing pain is brief compared to the lifetime spent carrying it silently. When you look directly at what hurts, you can begin to make sense of it. You can begin to make choices that move you forward, rather than keep you stuck. Once you see the pain you carry, the next step is deciding to grow. Pain is a signal, not a sentence. It is telling you something about yourself, your choices, your boundaries, your needs, and your potential. It is giving you insight into the areas of your life that demand attention. Growth begins when you stop being a victim of your circumstances and start being a student of your experiences. Growth begins when you take responsibility for the lessons hidden in your discomfort. Every painful experience contains a message, if you are willing to pay attention, and those messages are tools for building a stronger, wiser, more resilient version of yourself. Deciding to grow does not mean erasing the past or pretending the pain never happened. It means using it as a guide. It means asking yourself, what can I learn from this? How can this experience shape me, instead of break me? What habits, choices, or patterns can I change because of this? Growth is deliberate. It is intentional. It is the conscious decision to let pain become fuel for improvement, instead of chains that hold you back. You cannot grow by waiting for life to become easier or for pain to disappear. You grow by acting in the face of discomfort. When you carry pain without growth, it manifests in your daily life in ways you may not notice. It shows up in self-doubt, hesitation, and avoidance. It shows up in reactive behavior, impatience, and emotional outbursts. It shows up in relationships that fail because old wounds dictate your actions. It shows up in goals left unfinished because fear of failure or fear of discomfort keeps you from committing. Ignoring pain keeps you repeating the same pattern. Facing it allows you to rewrite the rules of your life starting today. Deciding to grow also means creating new habits and mindsets. It means committing to self-reflection, journaling, meditation, or honest conversations with someone you trust. It means evaluating your behavior and asking yourself, does this action help me grow or keep me stuck? Every step you take toward understanding and processing your pain becomes a step toward a healthier version of yourself. Growth does not require perfection. It requires attention, effort, and persistence. It requires the willingness to face what is uncomfortable and continue moving forward anyway. You also need to recognize that growth is not linear. Some days you will feel strong, aware, and capable. Other days the pain may return unexpectedly, and old habits will resurface. This is normal. It is part of the process. True growth is built on consistency, not occasional breakthroughs. It is built on small, intentional actions that reinforce awareness, self-responsibility, and resilience. Each time you notice pain and choose to respond differently, you strengthen your capacity to handle future challenges. Your growth begins to affect every area of your life once you make this decision. Relationships improve because you are less reactive and more empathetic. Work becomes more productive because your focus is less clouded by unprocessed emotions. Personal satisfaction increases because you are no longer allowing past hurts to dictate your sense of self-worth. You begin to experience a level of clarity that was impossible when you were avoiding your pain. You start noticing opportunities you had been blind to. You start understanding yourself in a way that gives your choices more meaning. This is the power of deciding to grow. Pain often carries wisdom you cannot see until you stop running from it. You may discover hidden strength, resilience you never acknowledged, or priorities you were too distracted to notice. You may uncover patterns in relationships, habits, or thought processes that have kept you small. You may see how fear, pride, or insecurity has limited your potential. Growth is the process of taking that wisdom and applying it. It is the deliberate use of experience to build a stronger life. Each decision you make to act differently, to respond consciously, and to improve your life is growth in action. When you decide to grow, you also take responsibility for your own healing. You stop relying on others to fix what only you can. You stop blaming circumstances or waiting for external validation. You stop minimizing your feelings and start honoring them. Taking responsibility does not make pain disappear instantly. It does, however, give you control, and control is the foundation of growth. You may stumble, you may struggle, you may fail, but every moment of conscious effort builds your capacity to handle the next challenge with more wisdom and strength. This process also requires forgiveness, starting with yourself. Many of the painful experiences you carry involve mistakes you made, actions you regret, or choices you wish you could undo. Holding on to self-blame keeps you trapped. Accepting your mistakes and learning from them allows you to release the emotional burden. When you forgive yourself, you clear space for growth. You create room for resilience, creativity, and new possibilities. Growth does not come from perfection. It comes from learning, adapting, and moving forward despite imperfection. Deciding to grow also means embracing discomfort as a teacher. Pain is the most honest feedback system life gives. It tells you where you have been weak, where you have been avoiding, and where you have potential you've ignored. When you choose to learn from pain instead of running from it, you transform suffering into insight. You transform frustration into focus. You transform regret into motivation. Each act of conscious growth diminishes the power that past pain holds over you and strengthens your ability to respond to future challenges. You will notice that growth also creates momentum. Once you start responding to pain differently, small victories compound. You begin making better decisions. You handle stress more effectively. You communicate more clearly. You feel more confident. You feel more capable. Each day that you face the weight of your experiences and choose growth builds a habit of resilience that becomes part of your identity. You stop being defined by what hurt you and start being defined by how you respond to it. Pain also teaches you empathy. When you process your own struggles, you gain insight into what others may be going through.
You become less reactive, less judgmental, and more compassionate. This not only improves relationships, but reinforces your growth, because you start responding to the world from a place of understanding, instead of fear or resentment. Your decisions become informed by experience, wisdom, and awareness, rather than by old patterns of avoidance or pain-driven reactions. The process of seeing your pain and choosing growth transforms your mindset. You stop thinking of life as something that happens to you and start thinking of life as something you navigate with intention. You recognize that setbacks are not failures, but lessons. You recognize that difficulties are not punishments, but opportunities for development. You recognize that pain, when addressed, becomes a tool for building resilience, clarity, and purpose. When you look at the pain you carry, acknowledge it, and choose to grow, you also reclaim your power. You stop feeling helpless in situations you once allowed to control you. You stop being a passive observer in your own life. You stop letting fear, resentment, or shame dictate your actions. Growth puts the steering wheel back in your hands. You decide the pace, the direction, and the outcome. You become a participant in your life, rather than a passenger. Every day presents a choice: continue carrying your pain as a burden, or use it as fuel for growth. The choice is yours. Avoidance keeps you stuck. Reflection and action move you forward. Growth is not a one-time decision. It is a lifelong commitment to facing challenges consciously, learning from experiences, and applying wisdom to your life. When you consistently choose growth, you stop being defined by the pain you've endured, and start being defined by the person you're becoming. This is your chance to stop hiding from your pain. This is your chance to examine it clearly, understand its impact, and take steps to grow from it. This is your chance to build resilience, clarity, and purpose. This is your chance to make pain a teacher rather than a prison. Every decision you make to act, to reflect, and to improve is a declaration that your life is worth more than the struggles you faced, and in this decision lies the beginning of a future you can be proud of.
Chapter 6. Notice your negative patterns and take control right now. Every life has patterns. Some patterns serve you, others quietly work against you. The problem is that most people don't notice the patterns that are holding them back. You wake up, go through your day, and repeat the same actions over and over, often expecting different results. You get frustrated when things don't change, when opportunities seem blocked, when your goals remain out of reach. The truth is, the changes you seek will never happen until you notice the negative patterns that dictate your behavior and take control over them consciously. Negative patterns often start small. Maybe you react to stress with frustration without realizing it. Maybe you avoid difficult conversations and convince yourself it's easier that way. Maybe you procrastinate important tasks while keeping yourself busy with distractions. Maybe you say things you don't mean because you're tired or anxious. These patterns develop quietly over time, and before you know it, they shape your life, your results, and the way people respond to you. When ignored, they feel normal, but they quietly limit your growth, your relationships, and your opportunities. The first step in taking control is noticing. Pay attention to your reactions, your habits, your routines, and your thoughts. Observe without judgment. Notice how you respond to challenges. Notice where you tend to give up before trying. Notice the repeated mistakes in your relationships, work, or personal life. Many people avoid this step because it's uncomfortable to face themselves clearly. They'd rather blame circumstances or others. But avoidance only strengthens these patterns. Awareness is the key to freedom. You cannot change what you cannot see. Every negative pattern has a trigger. You may respond with irritation when someone disagrees with you. You may avoid work when a project feels overwhelming. You may seek comfort in distractions when emotions rise, Triggers are signals. They are not your enemy. They are data. When you identify them, you gain insight into why these patterns exist. Understanding your triggers allows you to prepare for them, respond differently, and stop repeating cycles that no longer serve you. Patterns also affect your thinking. You may catch yourself thinking in ways that keep you stuck. I can't do this, it's too late, or things never work out for me. These thoughts are part of the negative cycle. If left unchecked, they shape your actions and attract the very outcomes you fear. The moment you recognize a thought pattern that limits you, you have the choice to interrupt it. Replacing it with deliberate thinking changes your behavior, which ultimately changes your results. Notice how these patterns show up in your habit. Are you consistently late, disorganized, or unprepared? Do you start tasks and leave them unfinished? Do you react emotionally instead of logically? Are there patterns in the people you attract, the opportunities you pursue, or the goals you abandon? Identifying these habits is not about guilt, it is about clarity. When you see the negative patterns for what they are, you reclaim the power to do things differently. Taking control begins with small actions. You don't need to overhaul your entire life in a single day. Start by choosing one behavior to interrupt. Maybe you will pause before reacting angrily. Maybe you will dedicate time to a task before checking your phone. Maybe you will speak your truth instead of staying silent. Small interventions create momentum. Each time you interrupt a negative pattern, you teach your brain that a new behavior is possible. Over time, these small changes accumulate, reshaping your habits, your responses, and your life. Consistency matters more than perfection. You will fall back into old patterns because they are familiar. They provide comfort even when they harm you. This is normal. The difference between staying stuck and moving forward is persistent. Each time you notice a negative pattern, respond deliberately and redirect your actions. You strengthen your capacity to maintain control. Change is not a one-time decision, it is a continuous practice. Your environment also influences patterns. Surroundings, routines, and relationships can reinforce negative behaviors. If you are constantly exposed to criticism, distraction, or stress, your patterns may persist. To take control, examine your environment. Remove what triggers your worst habits when possible. Introduce structure, positive influences, and reminders that support the behavior you want to develop. Controlling your environment gives your conscious choices a better chance to succeed. Self-awareness is essential. Journaling, reflection, or tracking your behavior can reveal patterns you were blind to. Ask yourself questions. When do I feel most reactive? Which habits do I repeat, despite wanting change? What thoughts prevent me from acting? Honest answers allow you to design actions that counter the negative cycle. Observing your patterns without judgment transforms them from unconscious obstacles into manageable challenges. Taking control also requires responsibility. You cannot wait for luck, motivation, or other people to change the results in your life. Patterns will continue to run unless you actively intervene. Accepting responsibility does not mean blaming yourself harshly. It means acknowledging that your actions matter and that you have the power to change. Once you internalize this, you stop feeling powerless. You begin to see that each choice, each moment, and each action shapes your result. Change begins with awareness, but it is reinforced by action. Once you identify a negative pattern, decide what you will do differently. Plan specific actions that counter the behavior. If you tend to overreact, take a pause, breathe, and respond thoughtfully. If you procrastinate, schedule focused time blocks for priority tasks. If you avoid discomfort, take one small step into what you fear. Action cements awareness into habit, and habit changes your life. Some patterns are emotional, some mental, and some behavioral, but all are interconnected.
Irritation may lead to reactive words, which leads to damaged relationships, which feeds frustration. Negative self-talk may lead to procrastination, which leads to missed opportunities, which fuels regret. When you break the chain at any point, the cycle is interrupted. Awareness allows you to identify where the chain starts and where you can intervene. Each interruption of a negative pattern is an act of empowerment. Taking control also means setting boundaries. Negative patterns often thrive in situations where your limits are unclear. If you say yes when you want to say no, you strengthen a habit of resentment. If you avoid conflict, you reinforce passivity. If you ignore your priorities, you reinforce distraction. Boundaries are not restrictions, they are tools for maintaining control over your energy, focus and behavior. Clear boundaries reduce the influence of negative patterns on your life. Accountability strengthens control. Share your intentions with someone you trust. Communicate the patterns you want to change and the actions you will take. Others can remind you, support you, and provide honest feedback when old patterns resurface. Accountability creates external reinforcement that complements your internal effort. Change becomes easier when your intentions are seen and supported. Self-reflection must become habitual. End each day by observing your choices. Note moments where negative patterns appeared and how you responded. Identify successes, no matter how small, and acknowledge failures without judgment. Reflection converts experience into insight. Insight informs future decisions. This cycle of observation, action and reflection gradually dismantles the patterns that once ruled your life. Taking control is a mindset, not a single act. It requires vigilance, self-honesty, and deliberate action every day. It requires believing that your life can improve because your behavior can improve. Every negative pattern you interrupt strengthens your ability to act intentionally. Every moment of conscious choice builds confidence. Every deliberate action rewires habits and reshapes your trajectory. Remember that patterns are neither permanent nor inevitable. The brain is adaptable, and behavior can be reconditioned. Negative patterns exist because they have been reinforced, but they can be replaced with positive actions that create new, constructive habits. Every interruption of a destructive cycle, every conscious choice to act differently, and every moment of self-awareness builds a new version of yourself. You may be surprised at how quickly life changes once you begin noticing and redirecting your pattern. Relationships improve because you respond with intention. Productivity increases because you act instead of react. Opportunities arise because you demonstrate reliability and consistency. Confidence grows because you are no longer a passive participant in your own life. The effects compound over time, creating momentum that propels you forward. Taking control starts now. Stop waiting for motivation, external change, or perfect conditions. Awareness is immediate, and action is available today. Start by observing one pattern that recurs in your life. Decide how to respond differently, and take that step consciously. Small acts of control add up faster than most people realize. The moment you intervene, you reclaim power that has been surrendered to unconscious habit. Your life is a reflection of the patterns you repeat. If you want different results, you must intervene. Notice the negative patterns. Understand how they affect your life. Identify triggers. Design deliberate actions. Reinforce new habits. Take responsibility. Set boundaries. Reflect daily. Seek accountability. Maintain persistence. Every choice shapes the trajectory of your future. The moment you take control over your patterns, you stop feeling like life is happening to you. You stop reacting and start directing. You stop drifting and start progressing. You stop repeating the past and start shaping the future. You reclaim authority over your actions, your thoughts, and your results. You transform invisible habits into conscious power. You turn old, destructive loops into pathways for achievement and growth. Noticing negative patterns is not a single event. Taking control is not a single act. Both are lifelong practices that create freedom, opportunity, and strength. Each day you commit to awareness and action is a day you expand your influence over your life. Every pattern you interrupt is a step toward a life built on intention, purpose, and consistent progress. This is your chance to stop letting patterns run your life. This is your opportunity to observe yourself clearly, interrupt destructive behaviors, and act intentionally. This is your moment to take control, build positive momentum, and design a life that reflects your potential. Every moment of self-awareness, every deliberate action, and every small intervention compounds into a powerful force for change. The moment to act is now, because control is built one choice at a time, and every choice matters.
Chapter 7. Be honest with yourself and fix what is falling apart. The hardest conversations we ever have are the ones with ourselves. Most people spend their lives avoiding them, pretending everything is fine, or convincing themselves that what is broken will somehow repair itself over time. But the truth is, nothing fixes itself unless you face it honestly. You know when things are slipping. You know when relationships are strained. You know when habits are harmful. You know when your career, health, or mindset isn't where it should be. The first step toward repairing anything is complete honesty with yourself about what is falling apart. Being honest with yourself requires courage because it means confronting uncomfortable truths. It means seeing the mistakes you've made without sugarcoating them. It means admitting where you have given up, avoided responsibility, or allowed fear to dictate your actions. It means acknowledging when your decisions have contributed to problems rather than pretending life just happened to you. This honesty is not punishment, it is clarity. It is the foundation for taking action and creating real change. Many people fear honesty because it exposes vulnerability. They fear the weight of accountability, the judgment of themselves, and the potential discomfort of taking responsibility. But avoiding honesty only prolongs the struggle. Problems don't disappear because you ignore them. Relationships don't improve on autopilot. Opportunities don't manifest when you're deceiving yourself. The longer you postpone honesty, the more difficult and overwhelming fixing what is falling apart becomes. Start by looking at your life piece by piece. Examine your relationships. Are they thriving or strained? Are you giving more than you receive? Are you being authentic or are you holding back because of fear? Examine your career. Are you growing and moving forward, or are you stuck repeating the same mistakes? Examine your health. Are you treating your body and mind with care, or are you neglecting yourself? Examine your habits. Are they productive, supportive, and intentional, or are they destructive, distracting, and automatic? The moment you observe clearly, you'll see patterns of neglect or avoidance. These patterns might be small at first, like skipping tasks, avoiding conversations, or ignoring self-care. They might be bigger, like failing to take responsibility for repeated mistakes, or ignoring opportunities for growth. Whatever the scale, acknowledgement is the essential first step. You cannot fix what you refuse to see. You cannot repair what you refuse to admit is broken. Honesty also requires self-reflection without judgment. Recognize that problems exist, but don't use them to berate yourself. This is not about blame, it's about clarity. It's about identifying what is not working and understanding the role you play in it. When you approach your flaws and failures with curiosity instead of shame, you unlock the potential to make meaningful adjustments. The goal is improvement, not self-punishment. Once you identify what is falling apart, prioritize your attention. You cannot fix everything at once, and trying to do so often leads to frustration and overwhelm. Start with what matters most. It could be repairing a damaged relationship by initiating an honest conversation. It could be addressing a recurring habit that undermines your progress. It could be facing a fear that has kept you from pursuing opportunities. By tackling the most critical areas first, you create momentum and reinforce your ability to make consistent improvements. Taking action requires strategy. Identify practical steps you can implement immediately. If a relationship is strained, reach out with clarity and vulnerability. If your work performance is lacking, create a structured plan to improve skills or focus. If your health is suffering, commit to daily routines that strengthen your body and mind. Small, consistent actions create a chain reaction. They build confidence, restore control, and demonstrate to yourself that problems are solvable when addressed head-on. Being honest also means reevaluating your commitments and priorities. Sometimes what is falling apart isn't a single habit or relationship, it's an entire approach to life that needs adjustment. Are you overextending yourself in areas that provide no real value? Are you ignoring what truly matters for distractions or temporary satisfaction? Are you investing energy in what drains you instead of what builds you? Aligning priorities with action ensures that the repairs you make have lasting impact rather than being temporary patches. Fixing what is broken also requires patience. Change rarely happens overnight. You may encounter resistance from yourself and others. You may relapse into old patterns. You may feel discouraged when results aren't immediate. This is normal. Progress is a process. Each honest action, each repair made, each step forward compounds over time. Consistency, persistence, and resilience are more valuable than perfection. Forgiveness is a critical component of repair. Being honest doesn't mean dwelling in guilt or resentment. Forgive yourself for the mistakes that contributed to the breakdown. Recognize that every failure contains a lesson, and each lesson strengthens your ability to handle future challenges. Forgiveness creates mental and emotional space for action, instead of holding you back in regret. When you forgive yourself, you gain clarity, confidence, and the freedom to rebuild effectively. Communication is another vital tool. When relationships are part of what is falling apart, honesty with yourself must translate into honesty with others. Express your awareness of the issues, acknowledge your part in them, and articulate the actions you are willing to take. Many conflicts persist because people fail to communicate honestly, hoping the problem will resolve itself. Speaking clearly, calmly, and with intention often resolves issues faster than avoidance ever could. Repairing what is broken also involves boundary setting. Honesty may reveal that certain relationships, habits, or environments are destructive. Taking control means making decisions to protect your well-being. Saying no, stepping back, or restructuring commitments is not avoidance, it is proactive repair. It creates space for positive growth, while eliminating forces that perpetuate breakdown. Without boundaries, even repaired areas can quickly collapse again. Reflection and monitoring are necessary as you repair. Regularly check your progress. Are your actions leading to improvements? Are habits shifting? Are relationships strengthening? Adjust your strategies if needed. Flexibility ensures that repair is sustainable rather than temporary. Honest observation ensures you remain aligned with the goals you set for restoration. Action and accountability work hand in hand. Share your intentions and progress with someone you trust. Accountability reinforces consistency, prevents regression, and provides external perspective. When someone observes your effort and progress, it strengthens your motivation and maintains your focus. Accountability ensures that repair is not just an internal thought, but a lived, measurable practice. Remember that repair is empowering. Taking responsibility, acknowledging issues, and committing to action restores confidence and control. Every honest decision reinforces your capacity to handle challenges. Every corrected habit strengthens your resilience.
Every repaired relationship reinforces trust and communication. The cumulative effect transforms not just what was broken, but your overall approach to life, making you stronger, wiser, and more intentional. This process also enhances self-respect. When you confront difficulties with honesty, take responsibility, and act to repair them, you send a message to yourself and the world that you value integrity and effort. You stop tolerating self-deception. You stop allowing life to dictate your outcome. You reclaim authority over your actions and your results. Self-respect grows in proportion to the honesty and effort you invest in fixing what matters. Change is inevitable when you maintain consistency. Rebuilding what is falling apart requires repeated action, deliberate attention, and ongoing evaluation. One honest act followed by inaction does not create lasting repair. Continuous, focused effort gradually transforms broken areas into functional, strong, and resilient aspects of your life. The process is long, but infinitely worthwhile. Facing broken areas and repairing them also develops wisdom. You learn to identify problems earlier. You learn to recognize warning signs. You learn to respond with intention rather than reaction. Each challenge you repair strengthens your judgment and decision-making. Wisdom grows from the combination of honesty, action, and reflection. The most significant transformation occurs when honesty becomes a habit. When you make a habit of examining your life, acknowledging what is broken, and taking proactive steps, you create a feedback loop that prevents problems from compounding. You stop running from issues. You stop ignoring warning signs. You begin to maintain a trajectory of growth, stability, and improvement that compounds over time. Honesty also reduces fear. When you confront what is falling apart instead of avoiding it, the uncertainty that once felt paralyzing diminishes. You gain clarity about the steps needed to repair and rebuild. Action replaces anxiety. Awareness replaces confusion. Every repair strengthens your confidence in handling future challenges with the same deliberate approach. This process reinforces personal responsibility. You recognize that your life is shaped by your choices and actions. You accept that neglect, avoidance, or dishonesty perpetuates breakdowns. You embrace that integrity, commitment, and intentional effort create restoration. Responsibility is liberating because it transfers power back into your hands. You are no longer at the mercy of circumstances, habits, or external events. Repairing broken areas is transformative because it touches every aspect of your life. Relationships improve, work performance strengthens, mental clarity increases, emotional resilience develops. Daily habits align with long-term goals. Self-perception shifts from powerless to capable. The ripple effects of honesty and repair extend far beyond the immediate area of focus, influencing your entire life experience. The moment you decide to be honest with yourself, to face what is broken, and to take action, you start the process of meaningful transformation. You take control over what matters. You initiate repair, create structure, and establish direction. You empower yourself to shape your life consciously, rather than reactively. This is the difference between stagnation and growth. There will be challenges along the way. Old patterns may resurface. Setbacks may occur. Progress may feel slow. Yet every honest action, every repaired habit, every step taken to restore what matters, builds resilience. It reinforces your ability to handle future difficulties and strengthens your capacity for intentional living. Being honest with yourself and fixing what is falling apart is a declaration that you will not accept mediocrity, avoidance, or chaos as your standard. It is a commitment to clarity, responsibility, and action. It is the conscious choice to shape your life rather than be shaped by it. Every act of honesty and repair is an investment in a life of strength, purpose, and fulfillment. The power of this approach is that it compounds. Each repaired habit, relationship, or area of life enhances your ability to repair the next. Each success builds confidence, clarity, and momentum. Every step strengthens the person you are becoming. The process never truly ends, because life will always present challenges, but each honest act ensures that you are ready, capable, and resilient. This is the moment to confront what is broken. This is the moment to take responsibility. This is the moment to act. Stop pretending. Stop avoiding. Stop waiting for circumstances to improve on their own. Be honest with yourself. See clearly what is falling apart, and commit to fixing it. Each choice you make reinforces your strength, wisdom, and capacity to live a life that reflects your true potential. Every repair, every act of honesty, every deliberate step forward builds the foundation of a life that is unshakable, resilient, and fully yours.
Chapter 8. Acknowledge your repeated mistakes and commit to doing better. Repeated mistakes have a way of quietly shaping your life. They are the habits that return no matter how many times you think you've escaped them. You may catch yourself saying the same things you regret, reacting in the same ways that hurt relationships, or making the same choices that delay your progress. Over time, these patterns accumulate and define the results you experience. Acknowledging them is uncomfortable because it forces you to face the reality of your actions, yet it is the only way to create meaningful change. Denial allows repetition to continue. Recognition is the first step toward transformation. Most people avoid acknowledging their mistakes because it feels like failure. They focus on excuses, rationalizations, or shifting blame to circumstances and others. This avoidance might protect pride temporarily, but it prevents growth permanently. Life rarely punishes ignorance more than it rewards awareness. Every repeated mistake carries a lesson that is waiting to be learned. By facing it directly, you gain insight into your behaviors, triggers, and thought processes. Recognition empowers you to take control over the outcomes that have eluded you for too long. Start by identifying patterns. Look back honestly at decisions, behaviors, and reactions that have consistently produced negative results. Notice recurring conflicts, missed opportunities, or choices that led to frustration. Identify what decisions you make under pressure and the tendencies that surface when things are stressful. Repeated mistakes often appear in subtle ways. They are in the words you use, the habits you allow, the commitments you neglect, and the shortcuts you take. Naming them is crucial because it transforms abstract frustration into actionable understanding. Once you've identified the mistakes, examine why they repeat. Understanding the underlying causes is key to interrupting the cycle. Are your actions driven by fear, impatience, avoidance, pride, or misunderstanding? Are your decisions influenced by stress, convenience, or external validation? Are habits replacing conscious choices? Patterns often repeat because the triggers and responses are automatic. The more you understand the why behind your actions, the more equipped you are to replace repetition with intentional behavior. Acknowledgement requires courage because it forces honesty. It's one thing to notice that a mistake happened, it's another to admit that you have allowed it to happen again and again. This honesty is not self-punishment, it is clarity. It is a moment of empowerment because recognition brings control. Once you acknowledge the pattern, you are no longer at its mercy. You gain the ability to take deliberate action instead of responding automatically. Commitment is the next step. Awareness without action is wasted energy. Seeing the same mistakes and doing nothing guarantees continued frustration. To break the cycle, you must decide that this time will be different. Commit to new responses, better choices, and conscious effort. Decide that you will respond to challenges with awareness rather than habit. Decide that you will pause before reacting. Decide that you will act from intention rather than impulse. Commitment turns recognition into transformation. Creating actionable strategies is essential. Choose specific steps that counteract your repeated mistake. If procrastination is the pattern, schedule your tasks deliberately and hold yourself accountable. If anger or frustration tends to dominate interactions, implement a pause and reflection before responding. If poor communication leads to misunderstandings, practice clarity and listening skills. Replace default reactions with deliberate behaviors. Every conscious effort interrupts repetition and rewires habits over time. Consistency is critical. You will fail sometimes. Old patterns are resilient, and breaking them requires repeated effort. Each slip is not a failure, it is data. Observe it, understand it, and use it to refine your approach. Repetition of conscious effort gradually overrides the automatic repetition of mistakes. Progress is built through persistence, not perfection. Every time you act differently, the cycle weakens. Every corrective action strengthens new habits that align with the life you want to create. Self-reflection is a powerful tool in this process. Regularly evaluate your decisions, actions, and responses. Ask yourself, did I respond intentionally? Did I repeat old mistakes? What can I do differently next time? Reflection transforms experience into insight. Insight transforms behavior. Over time, reflection builds the capacity to act from awareness rather than habit, reducing the likelihood of repetition and increasing control over your life. Accountability accelerates change. Share your acknowledgement of repeated mistakes with someone you trust. Explain your commitment to improvement and invite feedback. External observation reinforces internal effort. When someone else can notice patterns you may miss and remind you of your commitment, your actions gain additional support and consistency. Accountability increases the likelihood that acknowledgement leads to sustained change rather than temporary awareness. Emotional honesty is essential. Repeated mistakes often generate shame, guilt, or frustration. Feeling these emotions is normal, but they must be channeled constructively. Use the discomfort to fuel deliberate choices, rather than to retreat into avoidance or denial. Accept responsibility for the consequences without becoming immobilized. Emotional clarity converts regret into motivation and insight. The more honest you are with your feelings, the more you can harness them to reinforce positive change. Examine the impact of repeated mistakes. How have they affected your relationships, work, personal growth, and self-perception? Understanding the ripple effects of your actions strengthens motivation to improve. When you recognize the consequences clearly, commitment becomes more meaningful. You no longer act only to avoid personal frustration. You act to preserve relationships, achieve goals, and build integrity. Awareness of the consequences provides a compass for intentional action. Avoid self-criticism that paralyzes. Acknowledgement is not about tearing yourself down. It is about seeing clearly and deciding to act differently. Constructive observation allows you to take responsibility while maintaining self-respect. Treat acknowledgement as a step forward rather than a sentence of condemnation. The goal is growth, learning, and improvement, not endless guilt. Implement practical systems to prevent repetition. Habits are the most common form of repeated mistakes. Use reminders, routines, and structures to replace automatic responses with intentional actions. Reinforce positive behaviors through small, measurable goals. Track your progress to visualize improvement. Structured effort accelerates change and solidifies commitment into action. Repetition is also an opportunity for mastery. Every mistake carries a lesson, and the more times a pattern appears, the more opportunities to learn and improve. Treat repeated mistakes as signals for growth, rather than failures to be feared. Each cycle presents the chance to understand triggers, practice new behaviors, and strengthen resilience.
The awareness of repeated mistakes is the foundation for deliberate self-improvement. Commitment requires daily attention. Breaking cycles is not a one-time declaration. Each day presents opportunities to respond differently. Each moment offers a chance to act consciously rather than automatic. Consistent attention gradually reshapes behavior and replaces patterns that have hindered your progress. Daily effort compounds, building momentum that makes intentional action more natural over time. Forgiveness is an integral part of acknowledging mistakes. Forgive yourself for the repetition of past behaviors while committing to change. Holding on to guilt or shame prolongs the pattern rather than ending it. Forgiveness is not permission to repeat errors. It is freedom to act with awareness. Releasing self-condemnation allows energy to be invested in practical change instead of internal conflict. Acknowledging repeated mistakes also fosters humility. Recognizing that you have areas to improve without defensiveness or arrogance creates space for growth. Humility allows you to listen, learn, and adapt. It enables you to see external feedback clearly and apply it effectively. Growth occurs when acknowledgement combines with openness to learning and willingness to act differently. The transformation begins to appear as you consistently respond to your patterns with intention. Relationships improve because reactive behaviors decrease. Productivity increases because habitual procrastination diminishes. Self-confidence strengthens because conscious action replaces regret. Clarity expands because acknowledgement informs better choices. Each repeated cycle broken strengthens your ability to maintain control over future decisions and behaviors. Commitment to improvement also builds resilience. Every time you notice a repeated mistake and act differently, you reinforce your capacity to face challenges. The process conditions your mind to respond thoughtfully rather than react automatically. Over time, you handle stress, setbacks, and pressures with greater stability. Repetition of corrective action builds emotional and behavioral endurance. Accountability, reflection, and action form a continuous loop. Awareness of mistakes leads to intentional behavior. Intentional behavior generates outcomes. Outcomes reinforce awareness and refinement. This loop, repeated consistently, gradually eliminates destructive cycles and replaces them with purposeful habits that serve long-term goals. Acknowledgement and commitment also enhance self-trust. When you observe your behavior honestly and follow through with corrective action, you prove to yourself that you are capable of change. This strengthens confidence, reduces self-doubt, and cultivates a sense of control over your life. Self-trust compounds as each positive choice demonstrates reliability and integrity. The process transforms how you approach challenges. Instead of fearing mistakes, you see them as feedback. Instead of repeating errors unconsciously, you respond with intention. Instead of feeling stuck, you recognize opportunities for improvement. Each acknowledgement, reflection, and corrective action rewires your approach to life, making it strategic, deliberate, and growth-oriented. Repeated mistakes are not permanent. They exist to be noticed, understood, and transformed through conscious effort. The moment you choose to acknowledge them, commit to doing better, and take deliberate action, you reclaim control. Each conscious decision interrupts the cycle, builds momentum, and strengthens your ability to navigate life with clarity, purpose, and integrity. Every choice matters. Every acknowledgement counts. Every act of improvement compounds over time. Life responds to intentional action, and the power to shape outcomes is in your hands. By recognizing repeated mistakes and committing to doing better, you transform your behavior, your results, and your life. Each step forward builds a future defined, not by error, but by conscious growth, deliberate action, and enduring progress.
Chapter 9. understand your deeper fears, and take a steady new step. Fear is one of the most powerful forces in life, and yet most people never stop to truly understand it. It operates quietly, influencing decisions, limiting opportunities, and keeping potential locked behind invisible walls. Many people experience fear as a vague unease or hesitation, without realizing that it is directing their lives in subtle and profound ways. Understanding fear is not about eliminating it completely. Fear will always exist. What matters is recognizing it clearly, learning why it arises, and taking deliberate steps that move you forward despite its presence. A life dominated by unexamined fears is a life half-lived, full of what-ifs and regret. The first step in understanding fear is noticing how it manifests in your body and mind. Fear often shows up as tension in the chest, a tight stomach, shallow breathing, or restless thoughts. It may appear as procrastination, avoidance, indecision, or overthinking. Pay attention to moments when you feel resistance, hesitation, or unease. These are clues pointing directly to what your mind perceives as threatening. Identifying these signals allows you to address fear before it dictates your actions. Once you notice fear, examine its source. Is it fear of failure, of judgment, of loss, or of the unknown? Understanding the root helps you distinguish between realistic caution and unnecessary limitation. Many fears are based on assumptions or past experiences rather than present reality. By evaluating their origin, you separate what is factual from what is imagined, giving yourself the opportunity to respond rationally rather than reactively. Fear is often tied to self-doubt. People fear taking steps because they question their ability to succeed or their worthiness of positive outcomes. This is natural, but it does not have to dictate behavior. Recognizing self-doubt as a signal of fear, rather than a final verdict on capability, allows you to move forward despite it. Confidence grows through action, not waiting for fear to disappear. The first step may feel small, but every step forward weakens fear's influence. Facing fear requires honesty. Denying or ignoring fear gives it more power. Pretending it does not exist only allows it to control your decisions in ways you may not notice. Confronting fear means naming it, acknowledging it, and accepting that it is part of your experience without letting it dominate your actions. Acceptance does not mean submission, it means clarity. You cannot navigate what you refuse to see. Action is essential. Understanding fear is incomplete without movement. Even small steps matter. You may fear rejection, yet reach out to someone with honesty. You may fear failure, yet attempt a project with full effort. You may fear change, yet initiate a new routine or habit. Action builds momentum and provides proof that fear, while present, does not have to control results. Each deliberate step reshapes your perception of what is possible. Many people wait for fear to vanish before acting, but it rarely does. Fear is persistent because it is wired into survival instincts. Waiting allows hesitation to grow. Taking a step, no matter how small, teaches your mind that movement is possible even when fear is present. Each step forward reduces anxiety over time and strengthens your ability to act in future situations. The key is steady, deliberate action rather than reckless impulsivity. Understanding fear also involves examining the stories you tell yourself. Often, fear is fueled by internal narratives that exaggerate risk or anticipate negative outcomes. I am not ready. I will fail. I am not capable. These statements feel real because you repeat them internally, but they are assumptions, not facts. Challenge these stories with evidence from experience, past achievements, and realistic assessment of capability. Rewriting the narrative diminishes fear's grip. Fear frequently connects to uncertainty. The unknown creates discomfort
because the brain prefers predictability. When you face a situation with unclear outcomes, fear often rises. The strategy is to move forward incrementally, break large unknowns into small, manageable steps. Focus on what can be controlled in the present, rather than what may happen in the future. Small wins build confidence and reduce anxiety, creating a steady path through uncertainty. Reflection is an important tool in understanding fear. Take time to examine past situations where fear influenced your decision. Identify where avoidance cost you growth and where courage produced positive results. Reflection builds insight and allows you to see patterns. Recognizing how fear has shaped your past choices empowers you to respond differently in the present. Insight transforms fear from a barrier into information that guides deliberate action. Support strengthens courage. Facing fear does not mean isolation. Seek guidance, mentorship, or honest feedback from people you trust. Others can provide perspective, encouragement, and accountability. Support is not a replacement for action, it is reinforcement. When you confront fear alongside resources and understanding, your ability to act increases, and the weight of anxiety diminishes. Fear is also tied to expectation. People often fear stepping forward because they anticipate judgment from others, or fear disappointing themselves. Understanding that expectations are often external and not fully within your control reduces pressure. Focus instead on what you can influence: your effort, preparation, and integrity. Shifting attention from outcomes beyond your control to your actions lessens fear's intensity. Visualization can help in facing fear. Picture the steps you will take, the obstacles you may encounter, and the positive outcomes that could result. Imagining success builds familiarity and reduces the perceived threat. This mental rehearsal primes your mind and body for action, making real-life steps feel less daunting. Visualization combined with deliberate action bridges the gap between fear and achievement. Commitment to incremental progress is essential. Fear rarely disappears with a single act. It diminishes gradually through repeated exposure to challenging situations. Each step, no matter how small, strengthens neural pathways that associate action with competence rather than threat. This steady approach reinforces courage, confidence, and resilience. Patience with the process ensures that fear is managed, not ignored. Self-compassion is necessary when fear is present. Fear can cause hesitation, mistakes, or setback. Respond to yourself with understanding rather than harsh criticism. Recognize that experiencing fear is normal and that taking action in spite of it is courageous. Self-compassion provides emotional stability, reduces the intensity of fear, and reinforces the capacity to continue moving forward steadily. Fear often signals areas of growth. The things that provoke fear usually align with opportunities for development, expansion, or transformation. Recognizing this allows fear to serve as a guide rather than a barrier. The discomfort you feel points directly to where you can stretch, learn, and strengthen your character. Every courageous step into fear expands your capacity for life, skill, and personal power. Tracking progress is helpful. Record moments when fear arose, how you responded, and what outcomes resulted. Tracking provides perspective and evidence of growth. Seeing repeated success, even small, reinforces your ability to act despite fear. Documentation turns abstract courage into concrete proof, increasing motivation and reinforcing positive patterns. Understanding fear also involves preparing for challenges. Anticipate the obstacles and potential setbacks you may face. Preparation reduces anxiety by equipping you with strategies for action. When challenges arise, preparation allows focus on solutions rather than panic. Awareness combined with planning strengthens resolve and ensures that fear does not paralyze progress. Taking steady steps also reinforces consistency. Momentum is built through repeated, deliberate action rather than sporadic bursts of courage. Each day that you act, despite fear strengthens neural patterns that favor deliberate choice over hesitation. Over time, courage becomes habitual, fear becomes manageable, and confidence becomes natural. Accountability complements this process. Share intentions with someone supportive and commit to taking deliberate steps. External reinforcement keeps focus, provides encouragement, and prevents regression. Accountability ensures that acknowledgement of fear translates into action rather than theoretical understanding. Emotional awareness is crucial. Recognize the specific feelings associated with fear, tension, anxiety, uncertainty, or hesitation. Label them accurately. Awareness allows for precise interventions, breathing exercises, structured planning, or incremental exposure. The clearer the emotional signal, the more effectively you can respond and act. Understanding fear also requires reframing perspective. Fear is not inherently a threat, it is information. It signals areas of risk, growth, or learning. By viewing fear as data, rather than a barrier, you transform apprehension into strategic insight. Every encounter with fear becomes a lesson, rather than a limitation. Taking a steady new step in the presence of fear builds trust in yourself. You learn that courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to act despite it. Each deliberate step reinforces competence and reduces the power of avoidance. Over time, fear becomes manageable, guidance becomes clarity, and inaction becomes rare. Repetition strengthens mastery. Facing fear consistently trains your mind and body to respond with intention. Habits of avoidance weaken, while habits of courage strengthen. Small, steady actions compound, building resilience, confidence, and clarity. Each step forward, though modest, has exponential impact over time. This approach reshapes life fundamentally. Decisions are made from awareness rather than panic. Opportunities are pursued rather than avoided. Relationships are navigated with courage and authenticity. Challenges are met with preparation and resolve. Fear no longer dictates your trajectory. Deliberate action does. The process is ongoing. Fear will arise in new forms. Life will present situations that challenge comfort zones. Each moment is an opportunity to observe, understand, and act. By committing to consistent, steady steps, fear becomes a companion that informs strategy rather than a master that limits action. Understanding fear and moving forward steadily builds a life of confidence, resilience, and achievement. Each choice to act, each step into discomfort, and each moment of awareness compounds into progress. Fear becomes manageable, opportunity becomes visible, and personal growth becomes inevitable. Steady action transforms hesitation into momentum, limitation into capability, and uncertainty into deliberate forward motion. The moment to begin is now. Observe the fear within. Understand it, name it, accept it as part of your experience, break it down into manageable steps. Commit to acting deliberately and consistently. Each step, no matter how small, weakens fear's hold and strengthens your ability to live intentionally. Life advances when fear is understood and addressed, not when it is avoided. Every conscious action builds courage, confidence, and progress that compounds steadily over time.
Chapter 10. Recognize what you run from and build a stronger mindset. Running from reality is a habit many people develop without even realizing it. It can be avoidance of feelings, situations, responsibilities, or even personal truths. It is easy to focus on distractions, busyness, or temporary pleasures instead of facing what truly matters. But every time you run, your problems follow. They grow, multiply, and influence your life in ways you may not immediately see. Recognizing what you are running from is not easy because avoidance is comfortable. It is familiar. Yet, growth, resilience, and personal strength come only when you confront the truths you have been avoiding. Begin by identifying the areas you have been avoiding. Is it a difficult relationship, a career decision, a personal weakness, or unresolved emotions? Take a moment to honestly assess where you divert attention or energy to avoid discomfort. This requires self-reflection and courage because it is uncomfortable to admit the truth. Most people find excuses to justify avoidance, but excuses do not solve problems. Observation and acknowledgement are the first steps toward creating change and building a stronger mindset. Avoidance often comes from fear of failure, judgment, or disappointment. Recognize that running does not eliminate fear, it magnifies it. The longer you avoid a challenge, the larger and more intimidating it becomes in your mind. Fear grows when unchecked, but when faced intentionally, it loses power. By confronting what you have been running from, you break the cycle of avoidance and reclaim control over your life. Strength is built in the space where fear meets action. Emotional awareness is critical. Many people avoid not situations, but their own feelings. Denying emotions may provide temporary relief, but unaddressed feelings resurface as stress, frustration, or poor decision-making. Notice what you feel when you avoid something. Anxiety, guilt, shame, sadness, or restlessness are signals. Understanding these emotions gives clarity about the issues you must face. Emotional recognition allows you to address reality honestly rather than through avoidance or distraction. Once you identify what you have been running from, examine why it has been avoided. Understanding the reasons behind avoidance gives insight into your thought patterns, behaviors, and beliefs. Are you avoiding because it is uncomfortable, inconvenient, or challenging? Are you afraid of judgment or failure? Do you lack confidence or skills to handle it? Recognizing the root allows you to plan concrete actions to address the situation instead of reacting blindly or procrastinating. Taking ownership is the next step. A strong mindset is built on responsibility. You must accept that avoidance has contributed to your current situation. Life does not improve by hoping problems will disappear on their own. Responsibility means recognizing your role, deciding to face challenges, and taking deliberate steps forward. Owning your reality strengthens confidence, reduces feelings of helplessness, and empowers you to navigate life intentionally. Building a stronger mindset also involves breaking habitual avoidance. Running from problems becomes automatic when practiced repeatedly. Change requires conscious effort to respond differently. When you feel the urge to escape discomfort, pause and ask what action would move you forward. Even small steps matter. Each deliberate decision to confront challenges reinforces resilience, courage, and self-trust. Over time, avoidance weakens and intentional action becomes habitual. Focus on actionable strategies to confront avoidance. Break the larger issue into manageable parts. If it is a challenging conversation, plan what you will say and the approach you will take. If it is a personal weakness, design a routine to practice improvement consistently. If it is a career or life decision, gather information, assess options, and make small but deliberate steps. Concrete actions transform recognition into progress. Consistency is essential. A stronger mindset develops through repeated practice, not occasional effort. Facing avoidance once provides insight, but repeated engagement builds strength. Each time you confront reality, you reinforce neural pathways of courage, intentionality, and resilience. This repetition trains your mind to respond with awareness rather than instinctive evasion, creating a foundation for lasting change and mental toughness. Self-discipline supports this process. Running from reality often occurs because immediate comfort is chosen over long-term benefit. Discipline allows you to prioritize what matters even when it is uncomfortable. Daily practice of confronting avoidance, completing difficult tasks, and managing emotions strengthens mental endurance. Over time, discipline becomes a reliable tool that supports decision-making, focus, and resilience. Reflection is an important companion. After confronting what you have been avoiding, examine the results. Observe what worked, what felt difficult, and what lessons emerged. Reflection transforms experience into insight, which guides future action. The stronger your ability to analyze past choices without judgment, the more prepared you are to handle similar situations in the future. Insight gained from reflection builds mental clarity and emotional stability. Resilience develops through repetition of facing reality. Challenges will not disappear once addressed. New obstacles arise continuously. Each time you confront avoidance and take action, you strengthen your capacity to endure difficulty without fear or hesitation. Resilience is cultivated through experience, deliberate effort, and consistent practice in facing life honestly. A strong mindset is not the absence of difficulty, but the ability to respond effectively to it. Acknowledging what you run from also clarifies priority. Often, avoidance obscures what truly matters. When you identify the issues you have been avoiding, you gain insight into values, goals, and aspirations. This clarity allows you to make better decisions aligned with your long-term objective. Intentional focus replaces scattered energy, making your actions more effective and purposeful. Emotional resilience is strengthened as you confront avoidance. Avoiding reality often produces stress, anxiety, and frustration. Facing challenges directly reduces emotional tension over time. You develop confidence in handling discomfort and uncertainty. Emotional regulation improves because you learn that facing difficulties does not result in catastrophe, but in growth, progress, and learning. Support and accountability amplify results. Share intentions with someone trustworthy, and communicate steps you plan to take. Accountability ensures follow-through and provides encouragement. Having a supportive presence reminds you that facing reality does not require isolation. Others can reinforce courage, provide perspective, and validate effort, making the process more manageable and sustainable. Visualization and planning enhance mindset strength. Imagine successfully addressing the situations you have avoided. Consider obstacles and anticipate strategies to navigate them. Visualization creates familiarity, reduces anxiety, and strengthens preparation. When combined with deliberate action, this mental rehearsal increases confidence, reduces hesitation, and reinforces intentional behavior. Forgiveness is critical when confronting avoidance. Often, what is being avoided is tied to past mistakes, regrets, or guilt. Acknowledge your errors, take responsibility, and forgive yourself. Self-forgiveness allows you to focus energy on constructive action rather than being stuck in self-blame. It frees the mind and builds psychological resilience. Recognition and action together create empowerment. Simply noticing what you run from without action does not strengthen your mindset. Action validates awareness. Each step forward, no matter how small, proves that you can face discomfort and make progress. Momentum builds through cumulative effort, reinforcing the belief that challenges can be addressed and overcome. Facing avoidance also cultivates courage. Courage is not the absence of fear or discomfort, it is the decision to act despite them. Each encounter with previously avoided situations strengthens courage, creating a cycle of confidence and capability. Over time, challenges that once seemed insurmountable feel manageable because you have practiced confronting discomfort repeatedly. A stronger mindset also emerges from understanding personal triggers. Recognize what prompts avoidance, stress, pressure, criticism, fear of failure, or uncertainty. Awareness of triggers allows for proactive strategies to respond effectively. By managing responses intentionally, you replace reactive avoidance with conscious action.
reinforcing mental strength and emotional control. Repetition and persistence solidify growth. Mindset does not transform instantly. Confronting avoidance must be consistent over time. Each deliberate effort compounds, gradually reshaping thought patterns, emotional responses, and behavior. Progress may be gradual, but it is cumulative, and over time avoidance loses its influence while resilience and intentionality increase. Recognition of avoidance also sharpens decision-making. When you confront what you have been running from, choices become clearer and more aligned with your objectives. Hesitation decreases because you have faced the underlying obstacles. Confidence grows as evidence accumulates that deliberate action produces results. Each decision reinforces mental clarity and strengthens your ability to act decisively in the future. Facing what you avoid improves self-respect. Avoidance often erodes self-esteem because you know internally that you are not confronting reality. Every action taken to face avoidance reinforces self-trust and personal integrity. You build respect for yourself because you demonstrate reliability, courage, and intentionality. Self-respect compounds as you continually address challenges with honesty and purpose. Mindset strength is further reinforced by reflection on growth. Look back on situations you once ran from and acknowledge progress. Recognize how previous avoidance shaped experiences and how confronting it has changed outcome. Reflection reinforces confidence, strengthens insight, and motivates continued growth. Each reflection confirms that deliberate action produces tangible results. Flexibility supports a strong mindset. Sometimes, what you confront does not unfold perfectly. Obstacles remain, plans require adjustment, and results may differ from expectations. A resilient mindset adapts without fear or discouragement. Flexibility allows continued forward motion even when challenges persist, ensuring progress is maintained rather than derailed. Consistency, courage, and reflection together cultivate a mindset capable of facing life honestly. By recognizing what you run from and taking deliberate action, you gradually build mental and emotional strength. Avoidance diminishes, clarity increases, and resilience becomes second nature. Life becomes manageable because you have practiced confronting reality instead of evading it. This process transforms more than just external circumstances. Internal confidence, self-discipline, focus, and emotional stability grow alongside external progress. Stronger mindset enables you to respond to future challenges with preparation, awareness, and resolve. You no longer react impulsively or avoid discomfort. Instead, you act intentionally, guided by insight, courage, and clarity. The moment to begin is always now. Identify what you have been avoiding, acknowledge it honestly, and take your first deliberate step. Each step, no matter how small, weakens avoidance and strengthens mental resilience. Repetition over time compounds into significant personal growth. Every action reinforces a mindset capable of handling life's challenges with clarity, courage, and unwavering determination. By recognizing what you run from and consistently taking action, you develop a mindset that is unshakable. Avoidance no longer controls your choices. Fear and discomfort become signals rather than obstacles. Confidence, clarity, and resilience become habitual. Each deliberate step forward builds momentum, shapes character, and strengthens your ability to live intentionally. Life responds to honesty, action, and consistency, and your mindset becomes the foundation for sustained growth, achievement, and fulfillment.